Hello, and welcome back to Random Vids. So, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that I've never talked about before. Movies. I've never really talked about movies, and I've never even done a top 10 on movies, but I figured for today, let's talk about my top 10 favorite Disney movies. So, I have only two rules. Number one, only animation. No live action Disney movies. So they have to be animated. And they have to be Disney movies too. So no Pixar movies, no Blue Sky, none of that other stuff. Just Pixar. Those genres deserve their own list, since there's a lot of great movies from Pixar and Blue Sky, etc. But I think those should be lists for another time. So for today, let's count down my top 10 favorite Disney movies, which there's a lot of Disney movies, and I haven't seen every Disney movie of all time, but the current ones that are my favorites. So let's get to number 10, which is Hercules. This movie actually isn't one of my nostalgia movies as a kid. It's one of the ones I actually started watching more recently. And man, it's a really good one. Now it did take me a minute to figure out what my 10 and 9 spot would be, but I figured on number 10, I'm going to put Hercules. Boy, oh boy, where do I begin with this movie? Basically it stars this really strong guy who can beat up anything that our main villain Hades throws in our way. What I really like about this movie is our cast of characters. Hercules is a great main character, Meg is a great girlfriend to Hercules, and of course our main villain Hades. Now, one thing that I always like to look for is a good villain. And sometimes they do a good job, and other times not quite so much. I do think Hercules has a really great villain, aka Hades. He can be really funny at times and also still be, the villain. So they did a really good job of that. They try to fit that perfect balance of being kind of the comic relief character, but also still being, a villain. And I think they did a really good job with him. And of course, you can't forget his henchmen, Pain and Panic, too, who are hilarious. And man, the music in this one is really, really good. Some of those 90s Disney movies I think are a little overrated. I think some of the songs are a little overrated, but Hercules, I think, is perfectly rated. In fact, if anything, underrated. Some of those songs are really good. My favorite would probably have to be Zero to Hero, just because I love the gospel theme to a lot of these songs. Gospel Truth is another good one. I Won't Say I'm in Love is another good one. Even I Will Find My Way, which is more of the slower song. One Last Hope is a good song. Basically, all the songs are really good, but if I had to pick my favorite, it'd be Zero to Hero. Just because it's a really catchy, and I love what they do with the ending, making it really fast and zany. With our singer, I forget what their names are, but they're hilarious as well. So, the story is fine. I mean, there's nothing big or major about the story. I think it's overall pretty fine, but not one of my favorites. But I think overall this is a really good movie. It's just one of these ones that I just don't really know what to say about it, except for the fact that I love the music, the characters are really good, and the story is overall pretty decent. Not one of my favorites, but good enough that I think it would make top 10. So now let's go to number 9, which is Bolt. I admit it, if a Disney movie is going to have a puppy or a kitten or a dog or a cat as the main characters, then it's automatically going to win me over. I'm a sucker when it comes to animal movies by Disney, because some of them are just, most of them are done really well, especially, like I said, if they star a dog or a cat, because they're my two favorite animals, especially a dog. Anywho, Bolt is a movie that came out in 2008, and it stars this dog named Bolt. I don't really know what type of breed he is, but okay. So his owner, Penny, ends up picking him up from the pound when he's just a little wee puppy, and he's really adorable. And then when he and Penny both grow up, they act in different movies together, which I think is pretty cool. And they have to beat the dreaded green-eyed monster, who is our main villain of the series. But it's kind of interesting how he works, because he's a villain, but only in only when Penny and Bolt are in their acting phases. Other than that, it's like, well, he's just acting. So I think it's really cool how they made that work, where Bolt thinks this is all actually real when it's really just them filming a movie. So anyone who's actually bad isn't bad, they're just pretending to be bad for the sake of the film. Our main bad guy is actually the person who ends up, I guess, I don't even know what he is, but I guess he's like the manager of everything. Because when a accident happens and a building ends up catching on fire and Penny literally almost dies, her mom has had enough and quits. That's a good decision, and now they can live a happy, normal life. Bolt accidentally gets taken away in a box to somewhere far, far away from where he lives, and he ends up meeting a cat named Mittens and a hamster named Rhino, and they make their way back to Bolt's home. It's a nice, cute road trip type story. I'm a sucker for these road trip stories too. Between the animals and road trips, oh, they're both so good. And they're all really likable characters, with Bolt being just really cute and just a great main character overall. Mittens being pretty funny and basically our comedy relief character, and Rhino being our young kids comedy relief character, who's probably my least favorite of the group, honestly, just because he feels kind of like the filler of the group, but not bad. Penny's a great character. They're all really great characters. Even our villain is just fine. I don't mind. My least favorite characters are just probably the pigeons, just because they feel like the filler characters that are just there because why not? But overall, this is a really great movie, and definitely one of my top 10 favorites. Not my favorite animal movie that Disney has made, but I think it's pretty good. It's a very underrated banger. Now let's move on to number 8, which is Beauty and the Beast. So when it comes to the overrated 90s era of Disney movies, one of my favorites of that era is Beauty and the Beast. One of the main reasons is that this is one of my nostalgic childhood movies, and man oh man, I just love the story to Beauty and the Beast. It starts off with a girl named Belle, who seems like she doesn't really fit in with the town that she's living in, although her dad tells her that she's not odd. And the only person that really likes her is Gaston, but mainly just likes her for her looks. Belle's father ends up getting captured by the Beast, and when Belle tries to capture her, she trades her placement, her freedom, for her father's, so her father can go, but now she has to stay at this castle. And what she learns is that this castle is made up of a lot of moving furniture, between clocks, candles, teapots, you name it, and of course, the Beast. Basically, an enchantress comes to the castle to try to spend the night, and the Beast dismisses her, but ends up paying for the punishment and ends up getting turned into a beast because I guess he's really rude, so okay. And then everyone living in the castle turns into furniture, and it's under a spell unless the Beast finds true love. So I love the way that they did this too. They didn't just like make it feel weird with Belle starting to fall in love with a Beast. The way they did it, I think, was perfectly, because we all know, and everyone basically besides Belle knows, that it's not like she's just going to randomly marry an animal. Like, what kind of sense is that going to make? Like, we all know once she falls in love with the Beast and even like says I love you, then the Beast will turn back into a human. And towards the end of the movie, or the second half, the Beast learns to control his temper and is a much nicer person, and even learns manners, etc. So Belle's teaching him all this stuff, and eventually they both fall in love with each other, and the end of the movie, he turns back into a human. So it's not this weird, like, oh, Belle's gonna fall in love with an animal over a human type of story. That would have made the movie feel so much weirder. Especially the fact that Gaston wanted to marry Belle, so it's like, well, Belle, you're gonna want to marry Gaston because he's a human, not Beast. He's a beast. He's an animal. That's not how it works. But luckily, they made it work, because Beast isn't going to be a beast forever. type of thing. Almost kind of like Princess and the Frog in a way, where it's not like you're going to marry a frog. Once you kiss them, they turn back to normal or however that works. Anyway, I'm getting too much off topic. The characters in this movie are great. I love our main characters, Belle and Beast. I think they're really great main characters, and I love all the side characters too, between Mrs. Potts and Chip, and Lumiere and Cogsworth being our comedy relief characters, which they are underratedly hilarious. Even Belle's dad is good. Even the villains are pretty good. Gaston's a pretty interesting villain. He can have some comedy in there as well, although his main goal is to get Belle and marry her, even though Belle don't want to, especially as the movie goes on. And of course, Gaston's sidekick, Li Fu, who's pretty funny too, who gets played by Josh Gad in the live-action version. Live-action version's good too, but like I said, I'm only including animation ones, and the animated one's better anyway. And I love the final showdown too between Gaston and the Beast. It's such a great movie, and the music is really good too. Now, because it's one of my nostalgia movies, I've heard a lot of these songs a lot, but some of them are just really good. Like, I love the Gaston theme song, and Be Our Guest, of course, is really good. Heck, even our slow song is really good. The Tale as Old as Time song, which usually those aren't my favorite type of songs, and I usually put them as my least favorites of the movie, but they did a good job with it overall. My favorite song, though, of the movie has to be our opening theme, Belle. Basically, it's the whole village plus Belle singing. I think it's really great, and it's a great introduction to the movie with a really catchy tune. I love the way that that song goes. Overall, this is a really good movie, and it's easily in my top 10, and it's definitely one of my top 10 favorite Disney movies. So now let's move to number 7, which is 101 Dalmatians. I'm pretty sure you guys saw this one coming somewhere on the list. Like I said before, when Disney makes a movie focused on an animal, it's great, especially if it's going to be dogs. And unlike Bolt, where we don't really get to see young Bolt as much, now we get to see it, not just one, but 99 puppies. Because, 1 or 2 or 3 wasn't enough. We had to add 99. I love the 101 Dalmatians movie. It's just so great. So it starts off with our main character, Pongo, who is our male Dalmatian, and he's a little lonely, as well as his human Roger. So they both end up finding females, aka Anita for Roger, and Perdita for Pongo. Okay, and they both end up getting married, and the Pongo and Perdita have puppies together. And they have 15 puppies, which that's a lot. Unfortunately, our main villain of this movie, Cruella de Vil, loves puppies. And by that, loves to wear puppies. So she wants to buy the puppies off of Roger and Anita to turn them into fur coats. Because, it's not like Cruella already has a fur coat or anything. That's something I was always like, why does Cruella need a coat although she already has one? Like, I don't understand that. But, okay then. So, after Roger and Anita say no, Cruella gets her henchmen Jasper and Horace to go and take the puppies away. So then we see the whole family sad, and Roger and Perdita trying to get the puppies back. I think the villains are pretty decent. Cruella de Vil is a pretty decent villain, although I do like her better in all the spin-offs that we got. And same with Jasper and Horace. I think they're just great for sidekicks, but once again, I think they're better in basically all the other movies or sidekicks. Spin-offs. So Jasper and Horace end up taking the puppies to, I guess, what they call the de Vil place. So Pongo and Perdita have to go find them. And eventually they do end up finding them, but now have to escape Cruella, Jasper, and Horace. And they end up doing so and make it back home safely. So the story can end up being sort of like a road trip type of story, but man, this story is just so nostalgic. Or this movie is so nostalgic. I love it. I used to watch it all the time when I was a young kid. It's one of those movies that I just love to watch. And it stars dogs. I love dogs, and all of these puppies are extremely adorable. From Patch to Lucky to Rolly, they're all adorable. My favorite back then was probably Rolly, although I don't know who my favorite would be now. I love Rolly, I love Patch, I love Lucky. I love them all. They're so adorable. Which of course makes the movie like 100 times better, just having puppies in it. But even with that, our main characters are great too. Pongo and Bernita are great, Roger and Anita, and even Nanny. She's a great character too. Even our villains are pretty decent. Like I said, not my favorite of all times, but I still think they're good. Now, my only reason why this movie may be not quite as good as some of the others is because it's a 1961 movie. There is definitely a lot of filler moments. Like Pongo and Perdita slowly getting to the place where the puppies are. We have to see this slow-moving montage of that happening. I don't know why we got that, but okay. I guess it's there. And then all the dogs barking at each other, and these random dogs barking at each other. Yeah. Some parts of this movie make silly sense, where I think the rest of the movie overall is pretty good. Some side characters good, like I like Captain and Sergeant Tibbs and whatever his face is, the Colonel. They're great side characters, and a few other moments here and there. It's fun watching them try to escape the house, and Jasper and Horace just being oblivious. And of course, because this movie was really good, they ended up making many other spin-offs. Like they made, obviously, a sequel, they made a lot of live-action versions, and even starred our main villains. And of course, as you know, they made different TV shows too, like the Dalmatians series, which you've seen me, I've ranked the Dalmatians series before many years ago, and of course the 101 Dalmatians Street Smart series. So there's actually 2 TV shows on this one because of this one movie. That's great. And I've already ranked all the episodes from the series, which I thought was pretty interesting. If you want me to maybe look back at some of that, rewatch it maybe, let me know down in the comments, or even maybe re-rank some of it, or top 10, whatever. If you want me to do something more with the series, because it was like my first ranking video ever, let me know. And also the fact that it's some of my most viewed content on this channel, and one of the videos going over 1,000 views, which is crazy. So anywho, 101 Dalmatians, I love it. It's a great movie, it's cute, and it's a good movie overall. So now let's move to number 6, which is Encanto. Wow, an actual modern Disney movie making it on my top 10 list. Which, yeah, some of the modern Disney movies are just okay. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of the modern ones, but one of them that I have seen and liked a lot was Encanto. And I mean, this one is a really well-loved one by many. So Encanto stars this girl named Mirabel, who lives in a house that's magical, and it's kind of a weird one to describe, a weird story to describe. Everyone has like these powers because of Abuela, who is I guess the grandma, and she has triplets, and I don't know all their names, I'm sorry. But one can heal people when they're sick. The other one has like a storm cloud, and of course Bruno, who can see into the future. Then you have Mirabel's sisters, Isabella and Lisa. Isabella can create flowers everywhere. Lisa's really strong. And then her cousins being, I forget her name. She can hear things really far away. Then her other cousin can change, and her youngest cousin can speak to animals, which is really cool. And of course, Mirabel doesn't have a gift, unfortunately. This is one of those movies that's really hard to describe the plot. It's easier to just watch it, or at least in my eyes. It's harder to describe the movie opposed to watching it. So at one point, the whole house ends up collapsing, and Mirabelle thinks it's all her fault, and she gets upset and runs away. But Abuela, who both of them have kind of had a weird, rocky relationship, and being a grandmother granddaughter, she ends up being the one who finds Mirabelle and tells her about the past and what's happened to her husband. So eventually, I guess they end up building the house at the end of the movie, and it ends up becoming magic again. It's one of those stories that's a really complex story, so it's a lot harder to describe. It's easier just to watch the movie, but oh boy, this movie is great. Our characters are really good too. There's not a single character that's like dislikable. Even characters that could easily be dislikable, like Isabella, for example, who is the spoiled brat of the group. But even then, she isn't necessarily spoiled, but like she has like actual personality, not just being the spoiled brat who gets everything that she wants. That's what I really like about Isabella. At least that's what I like about all these characters, that they all have personality. They're not just one-dimensional and there. And man, the music is so good. I love the opening theme. I forget what it's called. The Home of, I don't remember. A lot of other songs are really good, like the one Mirabelle and Isabella sings, and of course, you cannot forget, We Don't Talk About Bruno, which ended up being now, I guess, the most popular Disney song, which surpassed Let It Go from Frozen. Thank the Lord! I don't think we need any more Let It Go's. Because We Don't Talk About Bruno is a really great song. It's like the only song in the movie that I can actually, like, follow the lyrics to. The rest are kind of like, whoa, what's happening? But I do think the story is really good. While complex, I do think it's really good. And I love seeing these characters, and I would love to see a sequel to this movie. So Encanto is definitely a really good movie, and almost top 5. Speaking of which, let's get to number 5, and that is Frozen 2. So Disney sequels are not known to be better than the originals, and I can totally see that for basically all the Disney sequels, except Frozen 2. So Frozen is definitely a really, really well-known movie, and it was about time we got a sequel. Honestly, the original Frozen is just okay. I liked a lot of the characters, but mainly the side characters, so I enjoyed more of the side plots opposed to our main plot, which is just Anna and Elsa trying to bond together. I don't know what the heck they were trying to do with the original Frozen. It was kind of an awkward movie, seeing Anna and Elsa try to be sisters together, yet act awkward around each other because they don't ever really interact with each other. And when they do, it's just a lot of fighting, or why this, why that, and it just gets so old. So having both of them together in that first movie just made the movie feel very slow and just so awkwardly annoying. The best parts about the original were definitely the side characters, like Kristoff, Sven, Olaf. They're all really great characters. Even the trolls. I love the trolls, too. They're hilarious. I love the young ones. They're cute. And, of course, Olaf being our comedy relief character. The songs being extremely overplayed. And there you go. You got your original Frozen movie. So a lot of that had to be fixed for the sequel. And luckily for the sequel, not just the side characters, but our main characters are really great, too. Like, we didn't get to see a lot of that sisterly bond in the original movie because they were too busy trying to stay distant from each other. Wow, that's exactly what I want to see when I want to watch a Disney movie. So this movie we actually got to see a lot more sister bond, which I really thought was way, way better than what they were trying to go through for the original. And I love seeing all these characters together. Anna and Elsa are great characters in this movie. Kristoff and Sven are hilarious, of course, and Olaf is our comedy relief character. Great as always, of course. And we finally have some brand new music, which I'll talk about in a sec. So the story this time is about, once again, it's a very complex story, so it's a little harder to explain. There's these 4 spirits that have closed a forest, and Anna, Elsa, and the gang have to are going in and trying to fix it all. And they're learning about their past, about their parents. You see, this story is way more interesting than whatever the heck Frozen 1 was trying to go for. Because we actually get to learn more about Anna and Elsa's parents, their past, how they met, and some more interesting things. Yeah, it may be a little confusing at first, but it's not that hard to follow the story once you've seen it like at least 3 times or 4 times, even twice, honestly. You could follow the story. Um, Elsa ends up being the one who tames the spirits. And it's later revealed that Elsa is our 5th spirit. And unfortunately leads to a very weird ending with Elsa staying at the forest and not going back to Arendelle. Okay, then. At least this ain't as bad as Toy Story 4's ending. Oh boy. Because at least I feel like Anna and Elsa can still see each other in this movie. But it's a little odd of an ending. So hopefully when they make a Frozen 3 in the future, maybe they'll kind of stop that. The whole Elsa living in a different place. And I don't know, it's a weird ending. But besides that, I think the rest of the movie is really good. Kristoff is trying to propose to Anna, which is hilarious because he tries to and fails each time, so he ends up basically getting help from Sven. Olaf, of course, is your normal Olaf, and the music is way better in this movie, I think, than in the original. Like, I love the first song, Some Things Never Change. That's easily my favorite song in the movie. It's a catchy beat, and I love seeing all of our main characters sing the song, and it's a really good one. A lot of other ones are really good, too. Into the Unknown is our Let It Go, but it's a way, way, way better Let It Go. And, of course, we have This Will All Make Sense When I'm Older. I thought that was really good. The one Kristoff sings was really good, too. Show Yourself is also pretty good. The only one that was kind of iffy was The Next Right Thing, but that's just because it's the slower song. You know how I am with the slower songs. Not usually my favorite ones. But man, this movie was really great. I loved seeing all of our main characters together in this movie. And of course, you can't forget our adorable fire spirit. He is adorable. And he steals the movie 100%. Between him and Kristoff's silly moments. Kristoff is usually one of my favorite characters, and our little I forget what his name is, but little fire spirit is adorable too. Overall, this is a really good movie and a very well-deserved sequel to the original Frozen. Let's hope Frozen 3 is even better yet. So yeah, let's move on to number 4, which is the Aristocats. Man, oh man, talk about an underrated banger. Of course, this movie stars cats. So with it starring animals, that already gives it 10 points. I love when Disney movies star animals, not just humans all the time. So, because we had 101 Dalmatians, that starred dogs. Well, what if we had a movie starring cats? And they did a really good job with it, I think. So, the movie stars a female cat named Duchess. And Duchess has 3 kittens. So, her eldest of the group is Toulouse, who loves to act tough and is extremely adorable. Her middle child is Marie, who's the only female kitten, and wants to be proper like her mom. And then the youngest is Berlioz, who is usually the one who ends up getting in trouble the most, causes the most mischief, and is easily the cutest of the 3. And I love Berlioz. He's 100% my favorite character of the movie. I don't know why, but I love him. He's adorable. Anywho, kind of like 101 Dalmatians, the cats, or kittens, whatever, our main characters end up getting taken away from home by our villain, and they end up having to find their way back home. Okay, cool, another cute road trip story with these great characters. Along the way, they meet a cat named Thomas O'Malley, who falls in love with Duchess. And he ends up joining their road trip back to the house. What I love is that, unlike 101 Dalmatians, where we get some of those weird filler moments, we don't really get many filler moments in this movie. Instead, it's more focused on, the story itself, which I really like. The story is a lot stronger in this movie than it is in 101 Dalmatians, which is why I like it better. And they focus more on our main characters, the characters we wanted to see, our kittens, opposed to just the adults. Okay, but we're here to see these cute young characters like Marie, Toulouse, and Berlioz. And the music in this movie is better than 101 Dalmatians as well. The only notable one in that one was Cruella de Vil, but it's definitely nowhere near a top 10. But I did like the song "Everybody Wants to Be a Cat." I thought that was a really great song. It starts off slow-ish, but it ends up picking up as it goes on. And it's, I think, a really good song, and definitely my favorite of the movie. So our main villain is the butler, Edgar. Now, he can be a more forgettable villain, but he's definitely I think he's a really funny villain, and even when the focus isn't on Duchess and the kittens, we do have some really funny moments of Edgar and these two dogs, I forget their names. The one's name is Napoleon, I forget the other one, but we get some really funny moments, not just once but twice, which doesn't make it feel filler, it just makes it funny. And, of course, we got a few other scenes here and there. We got our last minute scene where it's the animals versus Edgar, and Edgar ends up going to Timbuktu. It's a great movie overall, and like I said, the kittens steal the show 100%. They are adorable. I love Marie, I love Toulouse, I love Berlioz. They're all great. Berlioz is easily one of my favorite characters. He's super adorable. Well, they're all great, but my favorite is Berlioz. So, Aristocats, definitely a really great movie, and definitely top 5. And definitely an underrated banger. Now let's move to number 3, which is The Emperor's New Groove. So unlike Aristocats, where Aristocats I've seen many times before when I was young, so it's a pretty nostalgic movie to me, Emperor's New Groove I haven't seen until more recently. But man, I can't believe it took me this long to watch this movie. It's such a great movie. So it stars this emperor named Cusco, who is very bratty, whiny, and wants everything his own way. So he ends up getting captured by accident. Well, I guess sort of by accident, and ends up having to take, say it with me, a road trip with Pacha, who is the dad of a peasant family who Cusco wants to take their whole house down or turn it into his own resort and stuff. And of course Pacha does not approve of that. But Pacha is nice enough to help Cusco on his way back, and both of them learn to bond together, and Cusco even learns to have some respect and treat others the way that he'd want to be treated. So even though he's a whiny character, they still did a perfect job of writing him, that it's a character that I still don't hate. I don't hate Cusco. I think he's a great character, and they did a perfect job writing him. Heck, I think Jake from Disventure Camp is way worse, because they've written him purposely to be annoying, and he gets no character development. Cusco at least gets character development throughout the movie, and they make the movie really good. But let's be real, the best thing about this movie is our villains Yzma and Kronk. They steal this movie so much in the fact that I could care less about Cusco and Pacha's story. I'm just here to see Yzma and Kronk's story. They are great, hilarious characters, with Yzma being pretty funny, and of course Kronk being our comic relief character. These two are hilarious together, and they create so many funny moments and so many running gags. It's hilarious to watch. And both voice actors do a great job of voicing them too. And it's really fun seeing their side story of trying to catch Cusco and kill him. Kronk's too nice to kill Cusco, and Yzma thinks that Cusco is dead, but Kronk didn't kill Cusco, so they end up going on their own journey to kill Cusco. Or at least find a way to, I don't know. Because they end up turning him into a llama instead. So yeah, Cusco's pretty bratty, but it takes to him being all alone and stuck in the rain to finally realize his own ways. Man, there's so many great moments of this movie. I love the restaurant scene. There's so many unhinged moments of that part. It's hilarious. Pacha and Cusco trying to escape, Yzma and Kronk randomly showing up. Kronk randomly is now the chef there. Everyone just complaining to the chef. Oh my god, it's such a hilarious moment. I love that moment. And then them randomly singing happy birthday to Yzma. One of my favorite moments of the movie, for sure. It's a hilarious movie. It's too bad Yzma turns into a cat for the last, few minutes of the movie, kind of ruining the character, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me too much. But this is one of those movies I'm here to see maybe not so much the animals for, but more so the humans But it's one of those movies that I also just enjoyed seeing Yzma and Kronk way more than Pacha and Cusco. And Pacha and Cusco are great characters too, but it's just your typical road trip story, which I've seen many times. But Pacha and Cusco are both really interesting characters, so I don't mind it. But Yzma and Kronk definitely stole the movie and ended up making the movie really, really good. Heck, the sequel was based off of Kronk, who stole this movie. The movie Kronk's New Groove isn't quite as good though, but I still think it was a great direction for a sequel. And of course, you can't forget The Emperor's New School, which I think they did a really good job with that too. But Emperor's New Groove is great. I also love the intro music that plays whenever the movie turns on. It's such a catchy, groovy beat. And of course, the iconic scene where Kuzu's like, "Ah, you threw off my groove," and then just pouts. It's hilarious, and it's great. Nothing else I have to say, but Emperor's New Groove is easily one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. So let's get to my second favorite, which is Zootopia. Oh man, I remember the first time I saw this in the movie theater. I was just so wowed by how great this movie was. Once again, it stars animals. Of course, it's going to be like up here because it's just so good. But the difference is that this is a more modern movie, obviously 2016, and it's just done so much better than a lot of the other animal movies. Man, oh man, though, this movie is great. So it stars a bunny named Judy Hopps, who wants to be a police officer, even though she would be the first police officer ever. So along her journey, she ends up meeting a fox named Nick Wilde, who is very cunning and very sneaky. And Judy is warned by her parents about foxes, and by things that's happened in the past because of foxes. But Judy and Nick end up bonding and end up being great friends. And they end up being such an iconic duo, and they're so great to watch. And the story is just really good too. So they're trying to find out what's happening to a bunch of predators in Zootopia, and trying to figure out why they're like becoming, I guess, savage. At first they think it's these wolves. I don't even know what they think it is at first, but they just magically become savage, and then these wolves take them away. So that seems like that seems like the right thing, right? Well, that's not the correct thing. Instead, these night howlers are these flowers that our main villains end up shooting at the, I guess, predators to make them act savage. So, and they end up being the villains of the group. And I love our twist villain. Mayor Bellwether is a character I never thought was going to be like the villain. I always thought it was either going to be like Mayor Lionheart, Chief Bo. I was also like 12 years old at the time too when this movie came out, so I didn't know how stories worked and stuff. But they did a good job hiding our main villain until like the last moment. And Mayor Bellwether is a great character overall too. In fact, all these characters are really great. Judy and Nick are really good characters overall, and easily some of my favorite Disney characters because they're just fun to watch and great. I also love seeing them as their young selves, like when the movie starts with Judy as a little bunny on a doing the stage show, and then when we get the flashback in Nick Wilde's life when he wanted to be a junior ranger scout, which leads to an adorable scene of Nick Wilde. If dogs and cats are my two favorite animals, foxes would probably be number 3, and rabbits would probably be number 4. So it's starring just great characters overall. The animation's really nice, the story overall is really nice, and it's one of those stories I can remember from heart. Like, I can remember a lot of the things that happened in this movie. Now, it does star a pretty annoying song, aka Try Everything, which is basically another Let It Go, in my opinion. Not quite as bad, but this song didn't need to be in the movie twice. Good lord. Chief Bogo is hilarious. I love him and Clawhauser's moments. They're funny. Clawhauser's funny. He's another one of our comic relief characters. Mr. Big being this tiny little rat. I love the story to this one. It's so great and so good. And honestly, I could have put this at number 1, but there's just one movie I enjoy a little more than this one. Let's hope that Zootopia 2 ends up being really good. I cannot wait for that movie to come out whenever it does. But I loved Zootopia 1 a lot. I can't wait for Zootopia 2. Before we get to number 1, I'm going to talk about a few quick honorable mentions. 101 Dalmatians 2. Wow, a Disney sequel actually making my top 10, or at least making my honorable mention list? That's crazy. So, this movie basically tries to fix what happened in the original movie. Star a main character who isn't a human or a dog, aka Star Patch, who was an adorable puppy of one of the 15 puppies of Pongo and Perdita. So I'm not gonna explain too much of the stories because I gotta keep this moving. But basically, Patch ends up in the city because everyone ends up moving, and Patch accidentally doesn't end up with them. So they have to go find Patch. Patch finds Thunderbolt, who is his greatest fan of all time, but then realizes that Thunderbolt is doing everything for TV. There's an episode like this in the series, actually. And of course, our main villains are still Cruella, Jasper, and Horse. But honestly, I think I might have liked them better in this movie than the original, because Cruella ended up turning into our comedy relief character, who has a lot of funny moments. And of course, Jasper and Horse being their hilarious and goofy selves. This was a really great movie, and Patch is adorable. He steals the movie, obviously, and our villains are really great too, and they're hilarious. I love how it just starts with Cruella driving her busted car. It's really great. It's a really good movie, and it definitely makes honorable mentions. Big Hero 6. Oh boy, this one's another really great one. So, it stars our main character, Hiro Humada, whose brother ends up passing away due to a fire, and the only person he has left is Betamax. So a lot of the movie is basically focused on him and Betamax trying to figure out who took it, and then him gaining up with his brother's old friends, and they all end up taking down this villain as well. What I really love is our main characters are amazing. Hero's a great main character, Betamax is hilarious, and he's our comic relief character, basically. And I love our 4 other characters, too. We have Go-Go, who is kind of the tomboy of the group. Then we have Wasabi, who's hilarious. Then we have Honey Lemon, who's the girly girl of the group. And then there's Fred, who's the comic relief character of the group. But all of them together just are so great, and I love seeing them interact with each other. I would have put this one higher probably if I haven't seen it so many darn times. It's a great movie, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's quite top 10. I put it in at least honorable mentions. Cinderella. For one of the oldest Disney movies ever made, this one is actually quite well done. With not as many filler moments as stuff like, Alice in Wonderland, where that's a lot of filler, or Pinocchio. Cinderella stars, of course, our main character, Cinderella, who wants to go to the ball to dance with Prince Charming. We all know how the story goes. She has an evil stepmom and evil stepsisters who don't want her to go and make her clean and work. But then she ends up falling in love with Prince Charming, and there you go. Simple story, seen it many times, but I love it. It's a great movie. Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. Wow, not the sequel, but the prequel being on this as well. What I love about Cinderella 3 is that they really tried to make a decent Cinderella movie. So, the evil stepmom tries to go back in time to erase any moments of Cinderella meeting Prince Charming. Instead, makes Anastasia fall in love with Prince Charming instead. What I love about this movie is that Anastasia actually gets some character development, and she ends up realizing her wrong ways and turns good. Which I thought was really great, seeing how one of Cinderella's evil stepsisters just turns good. And Cinderella is great in this movie, too. Instead of just being the girly girl afraid of everything, she actually tries to, take everyone down. It's a great movie overall. I've only seen it one time, but I remember liking it a lot. This is definitely well known as one of the best Disney sequels from that random weird era of the Disney sequel era. Lady and the Tramp. Oh yeah, you know a dog story's gonna be up here. My only thing is, once again, kind of like 101 Dalmatians, it is more of a slower paced story. But at least it focuses on animals. I love animals, obviously. So we have Lady and we have Tramp, who meet each other and fall in love, and of course have some iconic moments like eating this pasta together. So there's some things I really do like about the movie, and other things that are just kind of meh. Obviously, they did end up making a live-action version, and even a sequel, focusing their son Scamp, who definitely steals the sequel, but at the same time, I don't think the sequel's quite as good as the original. Overall, pretty good movie. The Fox and the Hound. Oh man, such a cute movie. Like I said, I love foxes. They're adorable, and they did such a great job with our main character, Todd, being this adorable young fox cub. Unfortunately, he's only a young fox cub for not even like half the movie. He befriends a hunter dog named Copper. I forget what type of breed he is, because I had a brain fart. But they end up becoming best friends, but later as adults, worst enemies. So, our main villain, Amos, ends up going hunting with Copper to try to find Todd. I think the story overall is good, but not good enough to make it in my top 10 list. And honestly, a lot of people really harp on the sequel, which I know it's definitely one of the weirdest thing. It's definitely a pretty weird sequel, but I don't think it's all that bad. My main reason why I like the sequel is just because we got to see Todd and Copper as young characters for the whole film, and Amos and Miss Tweed were hilarious in that movie, where Amos isn't really our villain anymore, which, okay, I like the Amos in this movie was just but I liked him a lot better in the sequel, but overall I'd think the original movie would be a little bit better. But I just love Todd. He's adorable. He steals the movie 100%. The Little Mermaid. So being in the musical era of Disney movies, this one was actually pretty good. I feel like there was a big jump from what's that movie? Fox and the Hound to The Black Cauldron and The Great Mouse Detective in those movies. There was a big jump in quality, sound, everything was just better. I don't know why. Little Mermaid overall is a pretty good movie. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites or top 10, but I think it's overall pretty good with some really good characters. Sebastian's funny, Flounder's pretty cute, Ursula pretty funny villain, honestly. And just some great things about the movie. Not my top 10 favorite, but I think it's good enough to at least be an honorable mention. And the music, of course, is really good too. I love Kiss the Girl, and of course, Under the Sea is good too. And Poor Unfortunate Souls would be up there as well. Kronk's New Groove. For a big fan of Emperor's New Groove, I'm so glad that they end up making a sequel, and the sequel is actually pretty good. Instead of starring Kuzco, who's overall a decent character, instead we star the character who steals the original movie, Kronk. The only problem is there's two characters who steal the original movie, Yzma and Kronk, not just Kronk. But I do like what they tried to do with him in this movie. So basically, Kronk wants a thumbs up from his puppy. And the way to do that is to get a house and a wife. So, Kronk tells whatever her name is, the head lady of the restaurant, all these different times that he almost made his puppy proud. He ended up owning a house, but then ended up giving it to a senior citizen, or turning it into a senior citizen center, and even had a girlfriend, but then gave her up to save his friend. The first half of the movie is just alright. It does have Yzma in it, which is really nice, but even with that, it just isn't the same as the funness that we got from Emperor's New Groove. It just felt really weird, very awkward, and just not my favorite part. The best part of the movie is easily the second half, where Kronk is at camp with the junior chipmunks or whatever, and he ends up meeting a girl named Birdwell, who they both end up falling in love with each other, which I thought was so cute. And of course they both fight at first, but they end up finding that they both have a lot of things in common and like each other. And of course they both dance out to the Earth, Wind, and Fire song. I think it's called Let's Groove? I think that's what that song is, but I don't remember. But it's a fun, great song, and I'm glad that they played it in this movie. It's fun seeing Kronk and Birdwell just jam out to the music. Unfortunately, though, they end up breaking up. And, uh-oh, it's time for Kronk's dad to come and give him that thumbs up that he's always wanted. Unfortunately, a lot of funny, more unhinged moments happen in the restaurant. Not quite as funny as the original, but still some funny moments. And randomly Kuzco comes in, but when Kronk finally tells his dad what's on his mind, he ends up getting that thumbs up, and even Birdwell comes back, which I thought was a really great ending to a great movie. Not quite as good as the original movie, but I still think this sequel is really good. It's a great direction for the Emperor's New Groove franchise. Nothing else I have to say. It's great. It almost would make top 10, but I think I'm putting it at honorable mention. The Princess and the Frog. Oh boy, another great Disney movie, which, once again, not one of my nostalgic movies, but one that's really good. So it stars a girl named Tiana who ends up falling in love with a frog named Prince Lavine, and they both end up getting married. And that's the story. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of other things that happen in the movie, but like I said, trying to keep it moving, because we still have my number one spot we got to talk about yet. This movie overall is really good. I like the story. Yeah, it is another one of those road trippy type stories, but I still think it's really great. Seeing Tiana and Prince Naveen starting to like each other, yet they still have to kind of like change themselves to if they want to make it work. And of course, it has a really good soundtrack too, with a lot of amazing songs like Almost There, which I think is really great. Dr. Facilitay's song is really good too. And of course, the lady who steals this movie, Mama Odie, who is hilariously funny. And of course, sings Dig a Little Deeper, which is one of my favorite Disney songs of all time, just because I love the I don't know what you want to call it. It's almost kind of like Hercules in a way, with the theme of the music kind of being like that gospel theme, which I really like. And it's a really catchy one too. It's one that will make you start dancing. No wonder they got rid of Splash Mountain and put Princess and the Frog in. The music's just too great. Anywho, Princess and the Frog, great movie. Definitely honorable mention. Wreck-It Ralph. So, kind of like Big Hero 6, I've seen this movie way too many times to make top 10, but overall I think it's a really good movie. So it stars our main character, Wreck-It Ralph, who wants to prove to his video game people that he is a good guy. Unfortunately, that goes wrong because Wreck-It Ralph is meant to be, you know, the bad guy in the game. That'd be like if Bowser wanted to be good in the Mario franchise. But he ends up crashing into a game called Sugar Rush and meets a girl named Vanellope, who both of them end up bonding together and kind of help each other out. So we get to see some interesting moments, and I love all the video game references in this movie too, which I haven't played too many video games outside of Mario, but hey, I think it's really good. Meanwhile, we have kind of a side quest with Fix-It Felix and our main character from this other game. I don't remember her name, but she ends up going to search for this apparent Psybug that landed in Sugar Rush. So her and Fix-It Felix have their own little side quest together, which honestly, in my opinion, I think it's more interesting watching Fix-It Felix and his girlfriend, whatever. I don't remember her name, I'm sorry. It's more fun watching Fix-It Felix and his girlfriend's journey more than Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope. So almost kind of pulling an Emperor's New Groove there, where I'm enjoying the side character story more than the main character story. They're just so hilarious together, and Fix-It Felix's girlfriend kind of reminds me of Joe from Total Drama in a way. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's a pretty good movie overall. I've seen it too many times, but I think it's good. Maybe a little better than the sequel. Moana. Alright, this is our last honorable mention. Then we'll get to number one. Moana is a really good movie. It stars our main character, Moana, who wants to explore the sea. And she ends up meeting up with a demigod named Maui, who she wants Maui to restore the heart of Tofiti, to restore the ocean. So Maui and Moana end up going on a quest together to restore the heart of Tofiti. So Maui ends up getting a lot of character development, realizing what he did was wrong. And let's be real, he steals the show. He's hilarious. And I love all the side characters too, between Moana's parents and Chicken Hey Hey. He's hilarious. I love how he's just randomly there in scenes. The crab, and of course Pua. Pua, great character, easily the cutest character in the movie, and the music is really good too. Okay, How Far I'll Go is a little overrated, but I did like the first song, and of course You're Welcome is really great, and even the one that the crab sung, I thought was really good too. Overall, this is a really good movie that I've seen way too many times, which is why it's definitely not top 10, but at least makes honorable mentions. Now with that, let's get to my favorite Disney movie of all time, and that is Oliver and Company. I bet you guys didn't expect this to be number one. So, once again, this is another movie that stars animals as our main characters, mainly dogs, but we also have our main character, Oliver, who is a kitten, and man, he is adorable. So, this movie takes a spin of the musical Oliver Twist, one of my favorite musicals, and basically stars homeless boy who tries to fit in with a bunch of other groups, finds a group of boys who steals things for Fagin, who gives it to this guy named Sykes. That's basically kind of like how this movie is. Disney took their own spin on this movie, and man, it's a really good movie overall. Like, it's not one of those nostalgic movies that I've seen, but at the same time, I guess I started watching it like around 2017 or something. And for it being an 80s movie, it's really, really good. Like, it's criminally underrated. Like, I love, like I said, the Oliver Twist musical, so having it be in a Disney movie and replace, like, the main characters with animals, great. Oliver, of course, is adorable. He steals the show. I like Dodger. He's a great character. Einstein's great. Francis is great. Rita is great. I love Tito. I think Tito's adorable, too, and I love his little side story with Georgette trying to win over her love, and Georgette's just kind of like, no thank you. Tito's pretty cute. Like, he's a Chihuahua. I think cartoon Chihuahuas are pretty cute. Fagin's a great character. Even Bill Sykes, I think, is a decent character. The only characters I don't really like are DeSoto and Rascur, whatever his name is. Basically, Bill Sykes' two dogs. Just because they definitely felt more like the bully type villains, opposed to, I guess Bill Sykes is kind of too, but he did have his funny moments. And he felt reasonable, where his dogs were just annoying as heck. And man, the soundtrack is amazing too. Between Streets of Gold being a really great song. Okay, the one that Jennifer sings is just okay. I like the one Georgette sings though. I think that one's good. And of course, one of my favorite Disney songs of all time being, oh shoot, what's that song called? It's not the very first one, that's Down in New York City. That one's just okay. What's that song called? Dodger sings it, but what is it called? Why Should We Worry? There we go. I had to think for a sec. But that's easily one of my favorite songs, and I love the end bit where we get Dodger and all of the main dogs singing that song as well. So we get a really cool, like, mix-up and a great, like, ending to a great movie. I love all the characters in this movie, like I said. It's a great movie, and I love how it takes like, the musical Oliver Twist and turns it into a movie. This ain't the last time that an Oliver Twist spin-off would have animals, because as you know, there's an Oliver Twist TV series out there, which I didn't even know existed till, like, 2021 or something like that, which I ended up ranking all those episodes on, too. Not as good as this movie, though. Now, I know Oliver and Company is no one's favorite movie from Disney. They'd prefer Lion King or Aladdin, which, honestly, I find those movies extremely overrated. Whereas Oliver and Company is way too underrated, and I think it's overall a really good movie. It's nothing spectacular, but it's just one of those movies that I just really like a lot. And in my opinion, I can consider it my favorite Disney movie of all time. Whew! That was a pretty fun list to make. It was a little long, but it was fun. I hope you enjoyed this funny random video that I did. I'll probably do another one in the future with, like, Pixar and Illuminations and all those other movies too. But for now, I wanted to do the Disney movies. So with that, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Peace out.